All right, I think we're on. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. It is a little bit of a dreary Sunday morning. I'm actually in Baltimore, Maryland, doing the show today remotely, just because of all my travels. And welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. I am Dr. Robin, and I'm happy to be here with you this morning to bring you more information and more topics related to emotional wellness. And I think, also to contribute to, living the life that we want. Um, Good morning, Bryce. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, how are you? Is it dreary? I guess it is. I don't know. We in
It's
New
dreary
Jersey.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, is the sun out in New Jersey?
It seems I'm not saying this out, but it's been some periods of sunshine.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
want to say that it's like completely like sunny. Like I need shades on, but no. But I
Okay.
mean, I probably could clean the barbecue up a little bit. So at least I think the
Okay.
rain is gone. I'm
All
hoping that's
right.
gone.
Okay. Well, here in Baltimore, it's still a little. I guess it's like sort of what they would call like spitting rain. You know what I mean? There's like
Oh,
moments
okay.
of,
Yeah,
and
I
but
got you.
nothing that would keep you from enjoying, the harbor and that type of stuff. So,
Sure.
so yes. So and it's interesting because the weather is definitely something that's outside of our control,
Right.
um, and we have to adjust to. And that brings me to what the topic of today's show is.
All
And the
right.
topic of today's show is letting go of the need for control. And
Mm,
so this is, yes, yes. So this
mm,
is a show that
mm,
I did.
mm.
You might know it's about to get deep. We're about to get a little deep
Absolutely.
with. So this is a show that I did, on the Apple Podcast. And I thought it was, time to do like a remix. We wanted to, transition it over to YouTube. So, talking about the need for control and letting go of that. And so, as always, just a quick housekeeping thing. Let's talk with Dr. Robin. We're YouTube. We're now on Twitter also, and we're on Instagram and of course Facebook. So, like, subscribe, and share, this show. If you're enjoying it, please share it with people someone who you feel like might benefit also from this information. And, we're making our way to come to you weekly with valuable information from someone who is um, a licensed clinical social worker and therapist. So let's get to the topic today. Let's dive in. So, there's sometimes this need for us to feel like we need to have control over things. So whether that's control over our lives, control over our experiences, control over other people, control over everything. And so, a lot of times that is causing us some unnecessary stress, um, where we don't think that that's the case. We think that having the control is actually going to make things better. But I want to kind of present something more to you today, a different way of looking at the control, the need for control. So some of the ways that we try to control things are, things must be a certain way for us. Like, oh, things have to go the way that we want them to go. People must do things our way. Um, or sometimes we have this, all or nothing thinking, which I've talked about before, which is sort of like a thinking error, so to speak. That if things don't go the way we feel they should, label it as catastrophic. Um,
Mm.
you know what? I wanted to say, can we turn down the music just a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, the music is great, but we can just thank you. All right, just because I was gonna, look live when you're live. We
Mm-hmm.
handle all the stuff in house. So, um, so yeah, so we have that idea of, um, if we feel that we are controlling things, and we may not label it control. We may feel like, okay, well, you know what? I just like to be the person guiding the ship, so to speak. And sometimes that comes from the roles that we play in other areas of our lives. So whether we're in leadership roles, whether we are in roles where we're in charge, and we feel like we have to be in charge of everything. And granted, don't get me wrong, we all, including Dr. Robin, we all have control issues in some aspects of our lives. Um, And it's beneficial for us to realize if it's causing us stress or not, if it's actually adding to our frustration, or is it contributing to our emotional well-being, our overall well-being. So
Mm.
um right, I know. Bryce, like, do you have anything you want to weigh in? I feel like you have a lot of I feel like this is
No,
hitting a nerve or
yeah. No, I'm just listening right now. So I think I definitely going to chime in. I'm just listening, just making sure, I just want to make sure you're good, and yes, I'm
yes,
just
yes. I
listening
know
right
you're
now.
handling
Yeah,
all the production. You're handling
yeah,
all of
I'm
the
listening right now. But I'm
yeah.
chiming. I'm going to chime in though. You know,
Okay, all right, all right. Whenever you're
Mhm.
ready, whenever you're ready.
I got you.
So so understanding, one, we have to acknowledge that if this is a concern for us, and like I said, I think most individuals, uh, we're functioning in life day to day, and we're trying to manage things, and so sometimes managing means we're possibly trying to control how those things occur, what people do, how we interact. We're trying to control a lot of things that are actually very much outside of our control. So when you think about what we were talking about earlier with the weather,
Hmm.
you know, the weather is something, or noise, background noise, whatever. These are things that are outside of our control. When you're doing a show live, or you're out of, like this morning when we were talking about, last night we were talking about doing the show remotely because I'm out of town. The idea is that there's going to be things that may occur that, I don't have any control over,
Right.
the signal for the Wi-Fi, whatever, the weather, the location, all of that. And so we tend to think that we may feel that control over things helps us to, we may feel like it keeps us calmer. We may feel like it makes us feel better, feel less anxious, but actually the opposite happens.
Mm.
There's actually increased anxiety with this need to feel like we have to control everything, because we're typically future predicting. We're trying to determine what's going to happen so then we can determine our reaction, how we're going to respond, all of those things. Or we're trying to control all the pieces to make sure the outcome is what we want it to be. Um, and so oftentimes when we're trying to do that and things don't work out the way we want it to, there's disappointment, there's frustration.
Right.
We are annoyed easily, or just this just like disappointing feeling that, well, I thought it was going to be like this. I put all these expectations in place. It didn't happen the way I wanted to happen. And so now, again, we're labeling it as a disaster or catastrophe, when that may not necessarily be the case.
Right.
There can also be power struggles, especially when we're trying to control people. We're trying to make people do the things we want them to do that may not fit within their personality or their abilities or
Mm.
whatever. And so, therefore, we get into this power struggle, of, us against them. And, if they would only do X, Y, and Z, then things would be better. Things would be okay.
Yeah.
Versus sort of realizing where people are and what their capabilities are.
Yeah. It's funny because oftentimes I'll say that, you know what, listen, I think um you have to be mindful of when you're operating an ego, right? So because now you got two egos going back and back, and that ego, part of the ego is being able to control, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, it's like some people, when I hear you think about letting go and control, I'm like, we all kind of struggle with that, which you're absolutely right, right? we
Mhm.
we all have that struggle, some more than others though. And I think, there's variant degrees of that, but I think we all struggle with that. I'm just sitting here thinking about, what do are there things that I really feel like I have to control, because sometimes you could do it without even know that you're doing it.
Right. And we may not be labeling it control. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're probably not saying, oh, I'm trying. Because I think, when we think about, if somebody says, oh, you have to control everything, or you're a controlling person, that comes across as a negative in
Right.
certain areas. But there are certain areas of our life where we do have to have, some level of control.
Right.
If you're running a business, you need to have some level of control, but you also need to realize that you need to delegate. But
Right.
there are other situations that we have to recognize that the control is outside of us. There is no control to be had because, we're not the person that can do that. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
So
right.
like, when you think about, like I said, so I'll give an example. Yesterday, I'm here in Baltimore at the harbor with my family.
Mhm.
And, my youngest nephew is actually like a great nephew. So, but we were going to the Smithsonian yesterday. So,
Okay.
the idea was for him to see the big dinosaurs, the big dinosaurs, the replicas and all that stuff, the big
Right,
animals, you
right.
know, the woolly mammoth, all of that stuff. And so
Right,
we get into the museum, we find great, parking, we get into the museum and everything. And, I go to the security, I say, oh, where are the big, like, where's the big dinosaur, replica and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, that's at the natural. You're at the wrong museum.
oh wow.
And so we were at the Smithsonian National Museum for American History versus Natural History or something like that.
Oh wow.
And so, mind you, a mistake on my part.
Sure.
But I found myself like getting into this mindset of, well, we could still make it to the other museum, because in my mind, I wanted him to see that. Now, mind you, he's 3 and he's seeing these awesome trains and cars and boats, and he's totally fascinated, having a fantastic time.
Right,
So he's not really concerned about, he has no concern whatsoever about, we're not at the right museum, we came to the wrong museum, but
right,
I am feeling, and therapists are human too, but I'm feeling this sense of, I made the wrong decision. Well, we could still correct it, da 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 da. So I had to regroup and I had to pull myself back in and say, well, wait a minute, he's having a great time. And unfortunately, one of my cousins is with me. So she was even saying, she's like, he's having a fantastic time. He doesn't
right,
care. My nephew, his father even says, like, he's fine. So I
right,
was like, you know what? Then I need to be fine because obviously this situation now is outside of my control. I made
right,
a mistake, but it's not a mistake that is, like a catastrophe. Not at all. He had a
right,
fantastic time and did not care in the least bit. So, but I could have gotten myself into all kinds of emotions and feelings and disappointment and frustration and everything because of feeling like, all right, well, you know what? I made the wrong decision.
right,
So one of the things we have to realize is when we're trying to control things, it does cause us more stress. We don't always think it does because, like I said, we tend to think the opposite. We tend to think, oh, well, you know what? We won't, we'll be less stressed if I can just control all the pieces of the puzzle. But that's just impossible.
right.
So let me take us back for a second to think about, why do we have this need for control? Like, why do we feel that way? So oftentimes when we are younger, we know that a lot of our early life experiences tend to dictate how we respond later in life, or how we act, how we behave later in life. Especially because a lot of times those experiences are not processed. Those experiences can be traumatic. Those experiences um, can just make us feel a lot of feelings and emotions that we just never really get past, so to speak. So often, when we feel like we haven't been in control of our lives early on, we then feel, okay, for me to be happy, for me to live a fulfilling life, I need to have control over stuff.
Right.
And those experiences could be a lot because, when we're younger, we don't have control over things. We don't. We have very little control whatsoever.
It
Um,
sounds it sounds like, and that's the thing. I apologize because you don't really know when you're not here. I don't really know when the double dutch in. So
that's
we
okay. That's
still
all right, though.
we
We're
still
doing it. We're
working on
good.
that ESP, but it seemed like that could the need for control be a label sometimes as a negative coping strategy?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It could be because we, and like I said, there are areas of our life where, yes, we may feel like, we need to have some control, like, finances, that type of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
we need to exert some control over certain areas.
Right.
However, the problem is that because we have oftentimes when we're younger, we like I said, there are a lot of things that are outside of our control, family dynamics, experiences that we have. There's a lot of things that are projected that happen to us as kids
Right.
that we have really no control over whatsoever. And so that may sort of promote this need for control as we get older, because
Right.
we're trying to make sure that we don't experience those same things or those same feelings and emotions that may have been associated with some of those negative experiences. But here's the kicker. It's unrealistic that we can have control over anyone or really anything, okay?
Mm,
But ourselves, but us.
mm.
So the only thing, and think about that for a second. Think about that for a moment. The only thing you can have control over is you.
Right.
That's it. And what I mean by that is your response to things, how you perceive things, how you take it in, how you decide to process it. If you are having a conflict with someone, you can't control what they're going to do, what they're going to say, how they're going to react. All you can control is your reaction.
Now
Your
you know what? I started smiling or chuckling a little bit when when because I'm big on that. You can't control nobody, right?
right,
But for sometimes being in situations, relationships, even entanglements, you know what I'm saying?
right.
That 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 people can make you feel like, well, you made me do it. You made me do that. So now not only you taking responsibility for your actions, but now you taking responsibility for other actions. So I'm wondering how many people and how many of your listeners out there, have ever felt like, oh, well, this person's this way because of me. Like I'm it's my fault or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or if
Uh,
they would just do this, then everything would be fine. If they, like, because, and
right.
where we try to, sometimes that control thing comes in where we're like in relationships, whatever the
Right.
relationship is, because remember,
Yeah.
relationships take on
Doesn't
many
matter.
forms. So
Right.
whether it's family relationships, more intimate relationships, you
Right.
know, friendships, whatever, oftentimes we are trying to like, well, I just need this person to do this because that's going to make me be okay.
Right.
And we just need to be okay. Sometimes we need to accept things for how they are. We need to accept people for who they are.
Right.
And I always like to say, and govern ourselves accordingly.
Right.
So, and that means that, it's just like, caring about people, loving people for who they are, not for who we need them to be. And that's kind of something we
Absolutely.
need to remind ourselves of, because typically everybody is coming with their good, their bad, their indifferent. All of us are, Dr.
Right.
Robin included.
Right.
Okay. And we're fortunate and we're blessed if we have people that are in our circle that love us regardless, that care about us regardless, that want to see us do well regardless. So we don't have to control all these other things that are going on around us. Because again, like I said, that's unrealistic. It's not really, and so we're fighting a losing battle if we are just trying to say, well, you know what, I just need everybody to do da 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 da.
Right.
It's like creating a party. Like you
Right.
come up, you create a party, or you're having a party. You create all the plans. You create where you want people to sit. You create that's what times you want people to eat, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you do all of that, and then something doesn't happen the way you want it to happen. And then all of a sudden, that goes back to that all or nothing thinking, where you've labeled it as, oh, this was horrible because it didn't go the way I wanted it to. But if people
Right.
still had a good time and everybody still enjoyed themselves and the party
What's the
existed,
problem?
right, what's the
Right.
problem?
Right.
Because we get caught up in this idea of, but it didn't go the way I thought it would go, or it didn't go the
Right.
way I planned it to go. So
Right.
those of us who are planners, I can raise my hand. I'm a planner.
I, I
We
keep mine
all,
all the way down
well,
on that one.
we got to plan for, we also have to plan for what's not going to happen, what's
Right.
not going to go the way we want it to go. And so we have
Right.
to have that flexibility. And so
Right.
letting go of that need for control also means that we're a bit flexible. We need to be flexible with our thought process. We need to be flexible with our expectations. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you allow everything to just go awry. It
Right.
means that you acknowledge the fact that everything may not go the way I think it should go, or
Right.
everything may not go the way it was planned to go. But as long as it happens, and it happens in the best way that we hope that it would happen, or that it can happen, then that's fine.
Right. Right.
So, because there's too many moving parts a lot of times, you know what I
Right.
mean? And especially when you're dealing with people, You know,
and
if
and
there's
must
anything you can't control, it's people. And if anybody
right.
out there has toddlers,
Mm-hmm.
if anybody has toddlers, that's proof right there. That is exhibit A, that you cannot control people.
You ain't lying.
Because toddlers, children in general, will show you on a regular basis
That's right.
that you can have a plan, you can feel like things are going to go a certain way, but they will have their own idea, their own
Right.
agenda. Even if
Right.
it's like, you know what? Yes, we're headed to a place, we're about to be late, but you know what? A toddler, they got to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So that changes the plan.
Everything.
Exactly. That will change everything.
Mm,
So I just want to say, because we're doing a shorter show today,
mm.
that letting go of the need for control is freeing. It frees you. It does. And the thing is, so it's less anxiety, it's less stress because you're open. So there's an openness that you have that things will occur, within the parameters that they're supposed to occur, and that things happen for a reason. And so oftentimes that's hard for us to accept because, like I said, based on maybe some past experiences, how we think life should go, we're very concerned about, well, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. So we don't want to
Right.
get stuck there. We don't want to get stuck there. So allowing that, letting go, allowing yourself to let go of that need for control frees you. It doesn't
Mm.
mean that you do nothing, though. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It doesn't mean that you sit back. Because I don't want people to think, oh, well, I'm gonna just sit back and I'm gonna relax. Because doing that also is not
Right.
always, that doesn't
Right.
always. Sometimes we do have to take some action, but
Right.
it's that acknowledging what's outside of your control, and you do the best you can to regulate your own response.
Yeah.
Because that's where your true power lies,
But
in your response to things.
I tell you, you know, some people need it though. That's the sad. It's actually very sad sometimes. Um, that people need, because now I'm even thinking about when I'm thinking about like people at jobs, and you have those people at jobs that, they just have this power, this need to control people. Because
Right.
I mean, there's a difference between being supervisory versus controlling.
Micromanaging.
Right. There's it's very different, you know what I mean? So, but some people need that. And I always think that it's like it's it's a negative coping strategy where people, they have to control to build a narrative or a space where they feel comfortable enough to operate in, because if they're not leading the ship or if they're not driving the train, then they can't function. They can't be a
Right.
part of certain situations. And I think with me, um, transparently speaking, I think that I think I have like a balance of it. I think I do have some areas where I feel like, nah, maybe I still need to control whatever, but then at the same time, I also feel like I move in improvisational. I move improvisationally, if that's not a word, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
I'm a grandson of a jazz musician. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
everything is improv. It's like music. It's on the fly. So but you're right. Though some people, they just have to control it. And then when you say, you know what, I'm gonna control me and how I deal with things, you're absolutely right. It is freeing because now you're number one, you're not, you know what? It's not even number one. You're letting go of being responsible of other people's behaviors, actions, and
Right.
everything.
Right. Because you can't be. That's the thing. It's like it's not going to happen.
Right.
So it is that, and even things that may happen to us, like if there's like, somebody gets like a medical thing going on or whatever. These are
Right.
things that are also outside of our control. But what we can control, even in those instances, is our response, how we
Right.
perceive the situation, what action we're going to take. So there's more power there than there is in trying to have power over circumstances that we have no control over. And that's
Right.
really what the message that I'm trying to get across today, because we lose a lot of precious, I guess, precious moments, precious
Sure.
energy,
Sure.
We're trying to control things and people and circumstances.
Sure.
And we have to, realize that, it doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean you don't do anything. It doesn't, you don't acknowledge what's going on and you don't take action where needed. Of course, you may need to do that, but it's also understanding that, determining, is this a situation that I can actually really control or I can make a difference in? Or is it a situation that I just need to let people or whomever do what they need to do? And then I just control me. I control how
Right.
I'm going to respond. It's just like if you're in the airport and your plane gets delayed, you see people get really upset. You see, and this is where we know when people have like this control situation sometimes, is because we have an emotional response to something that is, escalated in a sense, and we have no control. So I use this example of like being in the airport, your plane is delayed. Yes, that's frustrating. It's annoying, what have you. You're not happy about it, that type of thing. But is there anything you can really do about it? I
Right.
mean, yeah, you got some options. You could decide to drive wherever you're going to go. You could decide to try to take another flight, but it's going to cost you. There's going to be some other things.
Right.
However, oftentimes, we're still just stuck there. We're stuck there. We're sitting
Right.
there, and that's it.
Right.
So you can sit there and be in our feelings and be in our emotions and like, oh, this is horrible. We can, decide to, act on that
Right.
when we
Right.
have no power, no control whatsoever in the situation. Or we can find some alternatives. We can say, well, you know what? Sit here, I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna watch a show on my tablet or my phone. We can, because it's a situation that's outside of our control. So the
Right.
idea is to not have this negative emotion that is now taking you to another place,
Right.
that you don't need to go, but
Right.
rather recognizing, well, this is a situation that's outside of my control. I don't need to have control in this situation. So let me just adjust. If I need to call some people, let them know I'm going to be late, whatever it is, that's what I'm going to do. So
Right.
it's acknowledging that there's a situation, looking at, because we're also more rational when we're calmer. You know what I
Mm.
mean? We make better decisions when we're calmer. We make better decisions when we don't have the anxiety, kind of as the cloud over us. And then we're able to think a lot clearer and then decide what's our best response in the
Right.
situation. And that's all we have the power over. That's all we have control over, is our response. And sometimes we have to regulate that response. And
Right.
oftentimes people, we don't do that because we're feeling like control is being taken away from us. So then we're more frustrated, we're more aggravated. And so our response is based on the aggravation and the frustration, not from the place of, you know what, there's nothing I can do in this situation.
Right.
It is,
It is what
but
it is.
I have to sit with it, and that's it.
Right.
So,
Right.
all right. So that's basically that's what I got for y'all today.
Mm.
Okay.
But you had a lot. That's a lot though,
You know,
because
it's
it's
a lot in a little bit of time, but that's
yeah.
what I got for you guys today. So I hope
Yeah.
that, we will think about that. Like, let's think about, and like I said, everyone, we have areas where we feel like we need to have control. I think your example of the work situation was really great. Where sometimes we work with people that, they have to have control over everything. It's
Everything.
business, they want to have control over ideas, control over how people move, how
Oh.
they shift, all of that. And, it's kind of like, well,
Yeah, it's you
a
know what,
lot.
it's being I remember, people say, "Oh, well, it's just, just let us do," because we have we know, let me give you the higher level or the higher view of how to look at this. And I may listen, but in my mind, you know what I'm saying? Like, who told you that you had the higher view? You know what I'm saying? Like, who, it's
You
certain
mean that
people.
people want to control, like, in other words, they don't want to have collaborative conversations. They
No.
control.
Very often, no. They don't want to know. They don't want collapse. Certain people don't want it. They'll say,
Right.
"Yo, listen, do you see this?" I'm
This
like,
is how it's
"Nah,
going to be. This is how I
yeah,
want it. Yeah. I think
yeah."
we've all worked with people
We've
like that,
all worked, and not even
or
just
may work with some people like that now, right? Where it's like,
it could be work, it could be friends, it could be a lot of different situations. Like
right.
nah, you're not getting it, you're not getting it. Eventually, I'd be like, you know what? You right, I don't get it, and
Yeah, I
then
don't,
and I
and I
quit.
also don't want it. You're right.
Right, I quit. And
So,
that's where I say ego comes in, because sometimes
right.
people, they'll just keep wanting to go back and forth because they want to have whatever they feel, you know what I mean? And I'll always just bow out, like, you know what, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, well, you know what? You want control, so therefore,
It's
you
all
can have your
good. You
control.
can have it. I
Yeah,
don't
because
need
like
it.
I said, it's a losing battle in the end because you just can't have control over everything and
You just
everyone.
can't. You just can't.
So
You know, this is great. Yeah, this is a great topic, Dr. Robin. Great topic.
thank you, thank
Hit
you. So
home
I
too. Hit home.
hope that people have joined us today or will watch this later. And like I said, like, share, and subscribe. And
Absolutely.
until next time, next week we will be back. I'll be back in the studio next week.
Oh, wait a minute.
Bryce
Hold on. Let me celebrate you. All right. She's
Thank
coming
you,
back.
Bryce. Yes, I will be back. I will be back. It's we're going into summer, and you know what I mean. We gotta, we have to enjoy life while we have some breaks here and there,
Absolutely.
spending
Absolutely.
time with family and that type of thing.
Absolutely.
So just keep that in mind. Letting go of control, freeing. Okay. So until next time, this is Dr. Robin, and with Let's Talk with Dr. Robin. Thank you for joining me today. And again, until our next show, be well, be great, be you.